Hi everyone, welcome to Gramophone Music Studio YouTube channel. This video will be a walkthrough on the ABRSM Grade 2 oral test, answering tips, and teaching hints. You can find ABRSM exam related videos on our channel. We have already done a similar video for Grade 1 oral test and ABRSM exam information so you can understand more about the exam. Click the right corner to view them. First of all, what is aural test? It is a listening test that involves clapping, singing, and answering questions. The aural test is only required in the practical exam, which is face-to-face exam. 18 marks out of 150 is allocated for aural test. The entire test will be played on the piano regardless of candidate's instrument for the exam. Grade 1 to 3 oral tests have the same contents with increasing difficulty. It is worth checking the previous grade if you are doing grade 2. Test A will be about pulse and meter, Test B on singing echoes, Test C to tell the difference between two phrases, and Test D answering about musical features in a piece of music. Now let's start with the first test, which is pulse and meter. Here is the instruction by examiner. First, clap in time while I play. Join in as soon as you can and give a louder clap on the strong beats. And then the examiner play the entire piece. Is it in 2 time or 3 time? Candidate will have to clap the pulse of a piece of music, and for grade 2, it may include upbeat and 6/8 time signature. Give a louder clap on strong beat, which is the first beat, and then identify if it is in 2 or 3 time. The answer will be either in 2 or in 3. Candidate do not need to state the time signature. Here is an example of Test 2A.
First, clap in time while I play. Join in as soon as you can and give a louder clap on the strong beats. Is it in 2 time or 3 time?
And now I will show you the correct response.
First, clap in time while I play. Join in as soon as you can and give a louder clap on the strong beats. Is it in 2 time or 3 time?
It's in 2 time. Here are some answering tips for candidates. The possible time signature for this test are 2/4, 3/4, and a new addition of 6/8 time. 6/8 is considered as duple because of the grouping of 3 quavers in a group. The test may include upbeat, and examiner will give a clear emphasis on the strong beat to ensure the first beat of the bar is obvious. From there, figure out if it is in 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, or in 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now on to teaching hints for Test 2A. You can introduce the concept of steady pulse by having students clap a steady beat and the teacher claps various rhythm. For 6/8, it is duple, but the rhythm is more swing-like because 3 quavers in the group compared to straight even quavers. You can introduce upbeat by giving verbal example on where the emphasis is placed, and later move on to listening pieces of music with upbeats and clapping only on the first beat, and then figure out the rest of the beats and whether it's in 2 or in 3. And the next test will be singing echoes. The instruction is as such. Next, I'd like you to sing 3 phrases as echoes. Here's the key chord and your starting note. And then the examiner will count in 2 bars and start playing. The phrases will be 2 bars long, either in 2/4 or 3/4 time. Candidates should sing back the echo without pause right after examiner plays. The pulse should be continuous, and for grade 2, it will contain more complex rhythm and melody lines. And the range of melody line is increased to 5 notes, which is Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol. For this test, examiner is looking for candidate to sing in pitch rather than the vocal quality. Singing, humming, or whistling are all acceptable. You can sing in any vowels or syllable. Let's hear an example of Test 2B.
Next, I'd like you to sing 3 phrases as echoes. Here is the key chord and your starting note. 1, 2, 1, 2.
And this will be the correct response.
Next, I'd like you to sing 3 phrases as echoes. Here is the key chord and your starting note. 1, 2, 1, 2.
Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Now some answering tips for candidates. You should memorize the right tune and rhythm. You can maintain the pulse by tapping or clapping when the examiner counts in. You should sing the echo right after 2 bars of melody. Do not start early or delay. For teachers, you can guide the student by practicing with different melody that consists from tonic to dominant. And teacher can sing the phrase and have the student echoes. You can use hand gesture high or low to help memorizing the phrase. It will be good to turn on the metronome while doing these exercises to help maintain the pulse. You can also introduce by only doing 1 phrase and gradually increasing to 2 phrases and eventually 3 phrases. Lastly, teacher can demonstrate an example so the student knows what to do. Now let's move on to Test 2C about differences. This is the instruction. Now I'll play a phrase twice, but with a change in either pitch or rhythm the second time. Tell me what the difference was. Here is the key chord and the tonic. The examiner will count in 2 bars and play the phrase for the first time. And now, with the change, an examiner play the altered phrase without counting in. How was it different? The candidate has to notice 1 difference in pitch or rhythm, describe the changes, where it happened, is it in the beginning, the middle, or the end? What was the change, pitch or rhythm, and how did it change, like higher or lower, or longer or shorter? Candidate can respond verbally by describing in sentence or by singing or clapping both versions. You can also indicate when the change happened by raising hand and then follow up by an explanation describing the change. Here is an example of Test 2C.
Now I'll play a phrase twice, but with a change in either pitch or rhythm the second time. Tell me what the difference was. Here is the key chord and the tonic. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And now with a change. How is it different?
There was a higher note near the end. Now on to the answering tips. The candidate should understand the concept of pitch and rhythm change. For pitch change, it is changing the sound of the note, like from C to D. And for rhythm change, it is changing the length of the note, like from dotted quaver to quaver. You can raise your hand when you hear the change occur to identify the spot. You can also gently hum along to spot the difference. There are many ways to describe the change. For pitch, it can be higher or lower. For example, you can say there was a pitch change, it was higher near the end, or the pitch was higher near the end. As for rhythm, it can be shorter, longer, even notes or dotted notes. For example, you can describe there was a rhythmic change. there was a longer note near the end, or there was a longer note near the end, or the notes were even near the beginning, or there was no dotted rhythm near the beginning. Basically, if your answer contains where, what, and how the change happened, it will be fine. You may also sing for pitch change or clap for rhythm change, both versions, to show the difference. But this might be harder as it can be very confusing to remember both. And you can use these teaching hints for students. You can use music that the student is familiar with, for example, some well-known tunes or exam piece. You can demonstrate using the same piece with pitch change and rhythm change to show the difference. Have the students sing and clap the phrases to be aware of the changes. You can tell the student to use physical movements such as raising hand when the difference is heard. You can also revise the grade 1 exercises for pitch change. And now the last test, which will be about musical features. This is the instruction. Listen to this piece, then I'll ask you about either loud or quiet playing or smooth or detached notes, and about tempo change. For dynamics, it can be loud or quiet in different sections, or about the sudden or gradual change between these dynamics. The articulation will be about smooth or detached in different sections, whether they are legato or staccato. And for tempo change, you have to listen if there is any change in the speed. If yes, is it getting faster or slower, and where is the change? The candidate should pay attention to either dynamics or articulation, and about the tempo change after examiners specify at the beginning of the test. And now we'll hear an example of test 2D.
Listen to this piece, then I'll ask you about smooth or detached notes and about tempo change. Were the notes mostly smooth or detached? Was there any change in the speed of the music, or did it always stay the same?
The notes were smooth and the tempo slows down towards the end. And now the answering tips for candidates. Dynamics refers to loud and soft playing. You have to pay attention to the dynamics level at different sections of music, and if the changes happen suddenly or gradually. These are some possible questions. Did the music begin loudly or quietly? Did it end loudly or quietly? Which was louder, the beginning or the end? Did the change from quiet to loud playing happen suddenly or gradually? Be careful with this trick question, as there can be both soft to loud or loud to soft changes, and you have to answer the right one. And next, articulation refers to smooth or detached notes, which is legato or staccato. The music may contain both kinds of articulation, so pay attention to the articulation in different sections of the music. And these are some sample questions. Was the beginning played with smooth or detached notes? When the music was quiet, were the notes played smoothly or were they detached? Were the notes mainly smooth or detached? Were the notes smoother at the beginning or at the end? Please take note that the examiner will only ask between dynamics or articulation. It will not be both. Moving on to tempo change. This is a compulsory question for grade 2. You have to have a good sense of pulse to figure out if any change occurs. And also describe when the change happens. Is it in the beginning, middle, or at the end? There can be a tempo change or no change. The sample question is as such. Was there any change in the speed of the music, or did it always stay the same? As for teaching hints, you can ask the student to observe the dynamics, articulation, and tempo change printed on the sheet music and be aware of these differences. You can experiment using the same phrase with different dynamics and articulation and ask the student to notice their differences. Also experiment with ritardando getting slower, accelerando getting faster, and note tempo change. You can also introduce physical movement to distinguish between the dynamics and articulation. For instance, when it's soft, shrink the body. When it's loud, stretch the body up. When legato, use smooth hand movements, and staccato jumping. You can also have the student tap the pulse to figure out if the tempo changes. In the exam, candidate will stand beside the piano where the piano keyboard cannot be seen, and candidates should face the examiner. No book or instrument is needed during the test. ABRSM has published useful materials that can help candidates prepare the oral test. The books such as Specimen Aural Test, Oral Training in Practice can be bought in your music store or online. ABRSM also has an app called the ABRSM Oral Trainer, which has a paid and light version available. You can also find mock oral tests on ABRSM website, and on our channel you can also find the sample oral test videos. The links to the above materials can be found from the link in description. There is a definitive answer for Test C and Test D. For Test A, the pulse and meter, there is a correct answer, but the candidate might get the clapping wrong. As for Test B, the echoing, the accuracy on pitch and pulse can only be judged by a trained musician, which can be a teacher or examiner. In the exam, the examiner will not provide the answers. Besides answering correctly, candidates should also speak clearly and confidently. So this video only provides a guidance and walkthrough, but a training should be done with a qualified teacher in order to know if you are doing it correctly. This is the marking criteria for oral tests. Please note that the candidate's responding time and confidence level, and if a second attempt was needed in any part of the test, will be taken in consideration in marking. And now a very frequently asked questions. Many non-native English speakers are worried about the spoken response part in the exam. Candidate is permitted to bring an interpreter into the exam room. But from my personal experience, candidates do not need a perfect command of English for the spoken response part. The examiner will say the same instructions at the beginning of each test, just like in this video. And you can give simple answers and keywords confidently, and it will be sufficient. This is another frequently asked questions. Many non-pianists will wonder if the test can be done on their instrument. The answer is no. The oral tests are only delivered using the piano by examiner. You can utilize the practice materials by ABRSM to familiarize with the procedure. But teachers are strongly encouraged to adapt the test on the candidates' respective instruments to give them a better understanding. You can download the PDF version of this video as well as all documents mentioned in this video from the link in description. Like and drop us a comment if you've got questions or if you find this video helpful. Subscribe to our channel for more contents. All information is correct by the date of publication. In the event of any discrepancies or inconsistency, ABRSM's information shall prevail.